Yo, 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 what's poppin', all my peeps? It is I, your host with the most Renaissance man, who always thinks he can, and champion of the peeps, Patty Pitts, joined as always by the best of the West. You cannot forget about Sara Marshall for another SmackDown breakdown, part of Pitts and Sarah's wrestling show. Sara, what's poppin', girl?
Just indulging in some Pretty Deadly.
You are indulging in some pretty deadly.
Yeah, I need to find a better way so I can see and not keep looking down.
I will say they look very, very pretty deadly in their outfits tonight.
Yes.
See what I did there?
What I like too is like it's different for them, but like still them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I know that people are, I guess, I don't know, they have fans obviously,
Yeah, they
but
have.
I see them always getting roasted for their ring gear, and I'm like, but it's different though.
That's
Like,
why it's getting roasted, which sucks. People
well,
just don't
but
look different.
they look different. So
But
I think it's
it
cool.
doesn't look.
I've never seen that
Yeah.
done before.
No, and I like that they're different. They're not like over the top difference. Like they can't work it. It doesn't make sense for them, but it makes sense for them. It fits their entire gimmick, which I love.
Yeah.
And even the comedic stuff they've been doing throughout this Fatal Four tag match, like they still have a serious element to them, and they're very good in the ring. I don't know. I feel like this could be a match they could win. You think otherwise? I probably,
Yeah.
and you are not the only one who disagrees with me. But that's why I remain the champion of the peeps and not the NXT universe. But we're not here to talk about NXT, Sara. We're here to talk about SmackDown last night. We had a great post Rumble SmackDown where it started out with the Bloodline, but here's the thing: the Bloodline should always end any show, whether it is WWE or Pitts and Sarah's wrestling show. They are the main event at all times. So, Sara, let you take it away and kick things off with we had the tag team eliminator match, tag
Yeah.
team tournament finals. It's made up.
And I have a lot to say.
Go for it.
So
I'm all ears.
so we know that it was Braun Strowman and Ricochet versus Imperium. It was the finals of the tag team tournament, who will face the Usos next week for the SmackDown tag team titles. So my main takeaway from this, and I think I even tweeted it, was good match, but wrong result. And maybe I'm biased because I think I've made it very well known that I'm a big fan of Imperium, but
No.
the problem that I have with this is, okay, see, I can't I just can't get over how much I love Pretty Deadly. I can't. They even do the Scott Hall. Okay. Anyway,
They hit all your check marks or check
I
box,
know.
whatever.
Okay, so back to Imperium and this match.
The other loves of your life.
So the reason I think it's the wrong result is because I feel like this is very like yesteryear type of result where they put a random tag team together and then they like make them champions, and I'm so tired of that. And we know that that's exactly what happened with Strowman and Ricochet, because they had the beef online, and then Triple H is like, oh, let's like make this into something. So it's like two vastly different style wrestlers pairing up, which is great. Like, it's been a funny story. They're great in the ring. Obviously, I'm very happy that we're seeing Ricochet, especially on TV, every single week. But I think what's confusing to me is if they're trying to establish Imperium as this dominant force, then wouldn't putting the tag titles on them, as well as having Gunther as Intercontinental Champion, kind of solidify that? Instead, you have them losing to a random tag team, and basically the only reason why they won was because they're the baby faces and they're going to be going up against the Usos, who are heels right now, except for Jay. So like that's a whole thing we'll get into later, but like I get it, but at the same time, like Gunther's supposed to be a heel, and he's still like in that middle ground where, yeah, he's booked as a heel, but people still cheer for him because he's still
I'm
really good.
I'm here for him. Yeah.
And that
I,
feels like how it is with Imperium.
it just is annoying because I agree with everything you're saying, and you're right. It's just I see the direction they're going with the Braun and Ricochet, but to me, it just seems like they're going that direction because they just want to make that match happen. You know, they just want to give them that. Where Imperium, if you put them in that match, like you need to have them win. There's no like if they lose, then what's the point of making Imperium? You know, and
Yeah.
that's what I don't like right now. And if they're just doing, and this is just me being an optimistic person, is that if you're going to go this route and dethrone them at some point or whatnot, and you're gonna have a fresh restart, like wouldn't you want it to be with a faction and like a legit dominant force rather than just like the monster amongst men and super Ricochet?
Well, and that's the thing too. If we're supposed to be like, oh, they've had a historic reign, they're the greatest tag team in WWE history, blah blah blah. If we're supposed to believe that, you're then going to have them lose to a tag team that you put together 3 weeks ago because you just threw them into the tournament in the semifinals. Like it just seems kind of silly to me and very
Silly.
forced of like, oh, okay, well, we have to have some good guys in this match, so let's put them together because they're over. And it's like, but yeah, I don't get it. I don't like it. And it's I remember reading something a while ago and I don't remember who said it, but someone in the wrestling industry. And he was talking about how he had so much issue with how they've been booking Imperium. And it's like they are a generational group that should be booked as such, and they're not. And I mean, Gunther has had great matches. The rest of Imperium have had great matches too, but you kind of forget about it when they keep losing, and then they're losing in big matches where they're supposed to be qualifying and getting the tag titles. And it's like, okay, so then doesn't that defeat the entire purpose of trying to build them up? I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I'm
I
one,
see that.
and I don't know. It doesn't give me a lot of hope for them, and that's what kind of bothers me because I
Oh,
feel
there's
like,
hope.
well, I just at this point, like I know I'm not saying they have to be champions. It just seems like a ridiculous move with how they had the matchups going in the tournament to then have them in the finals to then lose to the people that you threw in because the Banger Bros were like eliminated themselves basically. Like I would have I would have at least been a little bit more on board only if it was Sheamus and Drew McIntyre that won because they've been doing this whole like tag team thing for at least like a month or more. So at least they seem a little bit more like a legitimate tag team than Strowman and Ricochet. That was just put together like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It boggles my mind how like I even was shocked when I looked up and was like, oh shit, they won.
that's
I
why
just
I asked you to
really,
tell me because I was like, I won't even watch. That's why I didn't watch last night. So
yeah, you caught up today. You were
mhm.
and I don't blame you
I
for doing
watched the
that.
match anyway, but um I wasn't
No, but
happy
you got
about
other
it.
shit to do. You got shit to plan, and if it's not, I get it. And that's the beauty of wrestling now is that you can do that. And it's
Mhm.
God, I love it.
But I will say, I did want to mention that I do give Imperium the only pass of everybody ever um to wear gray trunks. They're the only ones that I'm okay with because if you remember, what something that stands out in my mind and not in a good way is CM Punk wearing gray trunks and having a whole lot of butt crack sweat. And I just said,
Oh,
no, never, ever again. No one should ever wear gray trunks again. And he kept doing it. And I was like, you were a disgusting weirdo. And they came out in gray, but I saw no butt crack sweat. So I am totally okay with them wearing gray again. I just had to say that.
I
They
no, I
look,
agree. I'm just laughing at Pretty Deadly, like in
I know they're
this,
like, we're going to put the table back together.
like that's like it's little details like that
Mm-hmm.
that make them from a joke to like, all right, this is funny and going somewhere. You know,
I know, but I'm
it's great.
just
Like that, like a team like that to bring it back because Connective Worlds, that is I.
yeah.
Like that's a tag team that honestly is pretty deadly. I'm not saying if they won. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go that far. But if they won a match and then we're in like the second round, you'd be like, oh shit, they could do this. We're like, you're like, really, Braun Strowman and Ricochet are gonna go and
Well,
face Usos?
and
Like, I just don't.
and
I don't
that's the
get it.
thing that we've talked about on here before about the women, where we're just going to pair random women to go up against Damage Control for the tag team titles, and it's like, okay, but that's not like if you're trying with the women specifically, if you're trying to build the women's tag division, you don't do that. You make you make true tag teams for the women. It's the same thing with the men. There are so many men that can be paired together, or there's so many tag teams, and that's how they are. Like that's how they perform. They are a tag team. So why can't they be the ones that win instead of these? Because the thing is then it's like when you look at Ricochet and Strowman was the WWE champion. Like, why is he trying to compete for a tag team title right now? Like, it just is like you're just trying to get him on TV, and this is the easiest way for you right now because he can't be involved with Roman, Sammy, Cody. Like, that doesn't make sense. So I get it, but I don't like it at all. I just
It's
don't.
a new direction to, we'll say, expand his horizon, like expand his character in a way.
I guess, but like, I still don't even understand why people are a big fan of Strowman. If we're being honest, like, I just don't. I don't understand the appeal. I really don't.
I'm more of a, I like him as a person more than an in-ring competitor.
He's even a questionable person, if we're being honest.
Is he really?
But
I thought he was like a good guy. I don't know. Well,
from
whatever.
well, okay. So
Oh
let's
yeah.
move on to
Okay, let's move on.
the SmackDown Women's Championship match, which was Charlotte Flair. I always call her Charlotte. I feel like everyone's like Charlotte Flair, and I'm like, I forget to call her Flair. And Sonya Deville. But I
Because the
want to start
Flair
it
name
off
is.
by asking you, how do you feel about her new entrance song?
Oh, I love it.
Because I see a lot of people who don't like it, and I was kind of surprised about that.
Oh, I think it's good. I think it's really good.
I don't hate it. I just wish that maybe, you know, when it says like all hail the queen or whatever, like I almost wish that she came out at that point instead of like standing there waiting for it to be said. But I do like the remix of the song because I
Yeah,
do think it pays a little bit more homage to Rick, but it sounds different enough than her first one that it doesn't immediately scream Ric Flair, you know?
but you have. I'm sorry, but there's sometimes where you want to steer away from the nepotism, and then other times you want to steer into the skid of it. And this is a time where you steer into the skid of it because she's established herself already. You know, she is the women's version of Ric Flair and this era's version of that. So how do you do that? You do it with the song and, you know, the robes and everything. And
Yeah.
then you differentiate yourself in the ring. And with this, like, her song was nice. It was a good theme, but this one I'm more inclined to listen to outside of the show.
Yeah, it
And I
seems
think that's what they're kind of going
more
for.
Charlotte than Rick. That's what I mean. Like it doesn't
Yes.
seem like we're trying to force feed you guys that Rick is her dad.
Okay.
um
Yeah.
Also, side note, I just have to say I really liked both of their gears in this match. I feel like Sonya's kind of been underrated. Her ring gear has been underrated.
It
That's
has been.
right. And I felt like the match was actually really good. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be because they've kind of just had Charlotte be very dominant when the two have been in these random uh tussles backstage or even their quick matches or whatever. I felt like it was a really good showing for Sonya, and I like that they had been giving her these opportunities to be on TV for the last few weeks and actually have like to develop an actual feud with Charlotte. I don't know if it continues after this because this is now 2 times that she has defended the title. See, I just
I don't
told
think
look it.
I don't think. Oh, you were right.
I
Okay.
told you. I was
I don't like being wrong, Sarah.
Anyway, I don't even want to talk about it. But anyway, I felt like Sonya's a little bit underrated. Like she's actually pretty good on the mic. And I feel like Charlotte is not as good sometimes, at least not as a babyface. She's not as good. I feel like they've had some really cringy segments together, and a lot of it I felt like was more so on Charlotte's end than Sonya. Sonya's
Yeah.
gotten really good when she talks, but yeah, I thought it was a good match though. It's pretty solid women's match.
No, it was a good match. I was definitely entertained throughout the whole thing. It's just you know what's gonna happen, and I'm just waiting for that next step of that next feud that Charlotte's gonna have. That's really my mindset with it. I do love the fact that Sonya's getting in there and getting in a championship type mix and honestly holding her own. She
Mm-hmm.
has talent, but like I liked her better when she was kind of in the mix with Toxic Attraction because you
Yeah.
got to see her more come out, and come out as kind of a stronger character where
Yeah.
before it just felt like she was the punching bag authority material authority figure
Mm-hmm.
that is just the brunt of every joke, going to be putting over people, and it just now to have some sort of dominance with her. It's nice to see that because that's another element of the women's division that needs to grow.
Yeah. And I'm curious to see where they go with Charlotte. It's the same thing with Roman Reigns because we already know what matches they're going to have at Mania if they both stay champion until Mania, which I don't see why they wouldn't. But I saw a really good tweet that had a theory about Roman, and I want to talk about that later. So we're just gonna have to remember. No, not that one. Um, but anyway, I'm curious to see how they kind of try to involve Rhea a little bit leading up to Mania because they are on different shows, and I feel that they can't really be having them just have a match at Mania with no substance going into it, no lead up going into it, because then people are going to be invested because it's a match and people like Rhea and they like Charlotte. But if there's nothing there other than these two women that are at the top of their game are in a match, like I don't know how involved people are going to be. Like you need to have something there. So I'm curious to see what happens with Charlotte between now and then because there is several weeks,
There's some
a little less than 2 months. So I'm kind of curious. What is the pay-per-view next month? Is there a pay-per-view next month?
elimination chamber.
No, that's this month.
Oh, like next March.
Like
Oh,
March.
sorry. I
I,
for some reason thought
I'm
we were
gonna
still in
look it up
January.
because WWE pay-per-view
Usually
and
isn't. Usually
well,
was
because
always no
sometimes
way out.
they've sometimes have had Mania in March. So that's why I was like they might not
Yeah.
have one. Yeah, no, there's nothing.
It's
That's
a
a
long
long
time.
time.
It's a long time.
February 18th to April 1st and 2nd. That's a long time.
It's a long time.
Also, wait, does this mean no, they have to have something. Do they really not have a pay-per-view from Mania to Money in the Bank?
No, 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 no. Okay, so I am assuming that because of this new Triple H era, remember how he said he's going to
We
get
don't
rid of
have
the
like solidified ones yet.
exactly. So they're going to be coming up with ones on the spot. Not on the
Okay,
spot,
because I
but
was like,
you get.
that's two. Yeah, because that's all that's on here as of right now, but that's like 3 months.
Oh yeah, you can't. It's not like the olden days of the '80s where you can just have 3 months go by without a pay per view, and it's more than okay for business. You need to have
Money in
some
the
sort of
Money in the Bank is going to be
legendary.
fire because it's in London, so it's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. But anyway, do you have any thoughts on this? Any other thoughts?
No, I just I'm ready for the Charlotte Rhea feud and would like to see a babyface Charlotte go up against a heel Rhea Ripley.
I want to ask you, how do you feel about babyface Charlotte?
She's got to work on it.
I
Uh
don't love it. I don't
I
love
don't
it. It does
either.
not come naturally for her,
It doesn't. And
which is weird
it's
because
weird
usually,
because she's
but
very
that makes you
heel.
wonder, is she not really that nice in person? And that's why it doesn't come natural because it seems like the people who are like really nice, it's more difficult for them to play a convincing bad guy. So you don't really see this that often where someone is having a hard time playing a good guy. That doesn't happen a lot. So it just makes you wonder, like, is she not a very nice person or
I
what?
don't. I'm so fascinated because, like, I will say it's a lot harder because you want to just go off on your usual stuff and
Yeah.
incorporate it, a heel type of phrase or gimmick into, babyface. You have to be so in for the fans, I was thinking about it, like you could have Rhea just be like, you're a part timer, like all this shit. So like, I don't know. I just am not a big fan of her. That's why I'm more interested and ready for this Rhea feud to get going. Like, kick it up at Elimination Chamber with something. Let's do some promos at pay-per-views again. I miss
I
those.
think that maybe she could be better if she was feuding against a legitimate top tier heel. I feel like at this point, we've only seen her going against Sonya Deville, and obviously she's a heel, but she's not at the same level of Charlotte, or when Charlotte's a heel or Bailey's a heel or whoever. So I think maybe feuding with Rhea could bring out the best in her. It might make it easier for her to be the good guy, you
Hopefully,
know?
we'll see.
I
We'll
don't know.
see.
We shall see.
It's a good-
So we also saw a little video package, of course, because that's what we've been seeing recently when it comes to this little feud. Um, they showed Rey Mysterio and the New Day at a NASCAR event, and they were verbally accosted by the Judgment
Verbally
Day. And
accosted.
my favorite thing of the entire segment
Yeah.
was when when Dom came up and he was like, "Oh, hey dad, like what are you doing? Just hanging out with an old guy in pajamas?" And I was like, "What?" Like that was like his opening line. Like that just made me start laughing. Like I'm like I don't think he was meaning for that to be funny. Maybe a little, but I was just like it's so and then the guy gets in his face like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Um so they go back and forth, and Ray kind of does step up to Dom, and that's the first time that we've seen that, because every other time it's been like, I'm not going to touch my son, I'm not going to lay hands on my son, like I love you, you're my son, blah blah blah. So because they exchange words, they then race. Ray wins, and Dom immediately says, "If mommy was here, that this would have been different." I'm not sure what that means, or how she could have made it different,
You can take that any
but
way you want.
yeah, but I do think that this might have been a little bit of a lead up, like a little bit of a, this maybe the foundation, a little bit more of the foundation, maybe some of the drywall or the framing of the walls
Mm-hmm.
for the Rey Mysterio versus Dominic at WrestleMania.
I mean, that's what they're absolutely building towards, and
But
I
I felt
really
like
hope
this
they
was the
open the show
first
with it.
time that we've seen it in several weeks.
It is the first time. I really thought they were gonna fight at the Coliseum. I thought they were gonna fight in a racetrack. That would have been awesome. But my favorite thing with this segment was we're starting to see a little bit of a shift with, like, Ray's not doing the talking. It's Dom. He's
Mm-hmm.
taking the lead and taking that next step of his career where he can establish himself on his own. He's been a tag team with his dad for God knows how long now before Judgment Day. Comes into Judgment Day, he's still, being groomed a little bit. And now he can, prison really did him well.
Yeah.
If to put it in a phrase. But that's what I like about this is that we're seeing him just be this asshole kid, which he's good in the ring. He needs to just work on his mic skills, and this type of shit is going to help. I'm just ready for the opening match of Mania to be them two fighting in Hollywood to go full circle with Eddie and Ray opening up the show in Hollywood. It would be a real special moment for everyone,
Yeah.
not just the families involved. So, I just want it to be built up correctly.
Yeah, I do too, because it definitely has that big match feel. Very iconic match. And I feel like I wanted to ask you, do you feel like this could be one of the biggest matches ever? Because when have we seen father versus son in general? Or even at Mania? I mean, that's something that I don't think that we're going to see very often. And if they can do that, and that's a thing too. Dominic has like nuclear heat. And
Nuclear.
he doesn't even have to really do anything. He just like stands there and he gets booed. Ray is the complete opposite. He can be gone from TV for weeks or years, and his music hits every single time the crowd is on their feet. So it has the foundation
Potential.
of like amazing match that we all look back on from years, years from now. But what were you gonna say? Have we seen a father versus son before?
We have Sarah. Uh we have, except it's not like, it's pretty predictable. It was Vince and Shane
Oh, that's right. Okay,
got
but I'm
into
talking
it.
about like legitimate wrestlers that was like not, because I know that I think they kind of teased a little. Wasn't there a little bit of a tease with Randy and Cowboy Bob Orton? There was kind of some drama there, or you know, Cody and Goldust were having something and Dusty was involved. So like there was a little bit, but we knew that those matches were never going to actually happen. So
Yeah.
I think this would be like the first time where it's actually father and son competing against each other on the biggest stage.
Imagine Cody versus Dusty.
Huh?
Imagine Cody versus Dusty. I'm just thinking about it. The American Dream versus the American Nightmare.
I know, but he would never be the American Nightmare if I don't know that he would be had his dad still been here. Because I think a lot of it was like he was trying to stay away from being compared to
Oh, we
Dusty.
didn't like the compare.
Yeah. So
Oh,
that's why I think was part of the problem for him too was if we're getting all a little psychological, um I think that's part of the problem with a lot of like second generation stars who had a parent that was super iconic and legendary. It's very difficult for them to step out of their parents' shadow, but some of them can kind of navigate it well. But then I think with Cody, it was like he was trying to steer so far away from it that it became more of a problem instead of him
yeah.
just embracing part of it, because him doing the American Nightmare thing, that's its own thing. Because
Oh,
a lot of the people who
absolutely.
are big fans of Cody now, they don't really know much about Dusty or that he was the American Dream. So they don't have like the constant like, oh yeah, that's why he has that name. You know what I mean? So he
Yeah.
kind of created his own thing, but off of his dad's nickname, which I think was a brilliant idea. Whoever came up with that, if it was him, if it was his wife, collaborative effort, I don't know, but
Son
good
of a
idea.
plumber.
Yeah, he's just a common man. I always sing that. It always gets like stuck in my head. I don't know why.
I blast Kingdom every day after work. So
Of course you do. I used to play Smoke and Mirrors all the time when I was in my car.
something Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, okay. I used to play that song all the time, but
Smoke and Mirrors was a good theme.
it
I
was.
love that. That was a
Yeah.
good theme.
Dashing Cody is it's hard for me to pick between Dashing Cody Rhodes and Undashing Cody Rhodes, which one's my favorite. I don't know because I liked them both in different ways, but
I
I
like them
love that
both.
I was paper bagged. So maybe I should say that.
I think you might be the
Yeah.
only person in history to say I was happy I was paper bagged.
I was begging for a paper bag. I was like, please tell me I'm ugly and give me a paper bag. Like, please tell me I'm worthy of a paper bag. Like, I wanted so bad. So I was like gonna be so upset if I left without one. So I really had my hand out, like, give it to me, give it to me, give it.
Crying when you got home. Why are you crying?
I know,
I
and I
didn't
tried.
get called ugly.
I try to find the footage because I was in the front row with my friend at that show, and so I've tried for so long to try and find it, and I can't find it because I'm like I might have been on camera, and I just want to see like how obnoxious I was, but I don't know, because then I remember I said the other day I was there when Cody won his first singles title, and and he was dashing at that point. But then I
Yeah.
got paper bagged. He was dashing, right?
Yeah, he didn't have the mask yet.
No, he did. He did. I'm
Oh, he
like trying to
did.
think of my pictures. Yeah, no, he did because I remember I met him with the mask. I don't know. I'll have to look. This is completely off
We'll
topic.
look.
But anyway, I'm glad that we are at this point where he is the American Nightmare. That's all. So Bray Wyatt is very quick. A little quick segment. We saw,
Doesn't matter.
the highlights of the the pitch black match, which I kind of hated just because I hated to see that they were like LA Knight is being dominated, and I was like, this is so rude. They're obviously keeping him off TV, so he
They're
has to
just selling
sell
the
that.
injuries. Just sell
Huh?
it. No,
Yeah,
they're just.
sell it.
I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
just selling the injuries.
And then we just see Bray sitting in a rocking chair, and then Uncle Howdy shows up and scares the living crap out of everybody with a jump scare. Thankfully I knew that it was coming, so when I saw it, I was like prepared because I saw people talking about it last night. They're like, I didn't think I was going to have a jump scare watching SmackDown. But what
I
do you
dig a
think
little.
this means? What do you think is going to happen next with Bray?
Bray is going to be the ominous figure that looms over SmackDown. That's just what I think it's going to be, and someone who is, and this is why I don't want to put a prediction on one person that he's going to feud with because I don't want to go that specific.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that there is a way where we'll say like someone down on their luck, like can't find themselves because it's all about reveling what you are.
Yeah.
Own who you are, make, you made mistakes and own it. And when we see a wrestler at that stage, that's where we're going to see Bray Wyatt feud with them. And that's the figure it's going to be. And I've been saying this for a long time that Bray Wyatt is going to be the next Undertaker of this era. You need that dark, mythical, mysterious figure. And obviously, you could say like Judgment Day, but that's dark in a different way. That's a
Yeah.
completely different dark. This is
Yeah.
very, psychological and really, if done well, which has been so far,
Mm-hmm.
entertaining as hell. And the thing with Bray Wyatt now is that he's so over, and I wouldn't even say he's protected. It's just because he's so over, he's protected, if that makes sense. That you don't have to rush him for TV. If you keep doing this shit, you're going to have Bray Wyatt fans who are going to tune in and they're going to still go on live streams and talk about a 3-minute segment for about 33 minutes. So
Yeah.
if that's the goal with it, and this Uncle Howdy nonsense, you could really do anything with it because I'm Sarah, your point that, and I keep referring to it because it just makes sense for this era and this point of wrestling we're at, that Howdy could be Bo Dallas,
Yeah.
obviously, but we might not know that until like years later in interviews where it's like, yeah, I dressed up as Howdy and I was helping Bray with this concept of, Howdy's in his head, and it's just like it's a multi personality thing
Mm-hmm.
where I don't know if you've ever seen Moon Knight, but he deals with that personality disorder. For any fan or person watching who is a Marvel person and has seen Moon Knight, they deal with that, dual personality type of thing. Maybe we could be seeing that with Bray Wyatt, and we'll see them team up, but it could be Bo Dallas one week. It could be up and coming wrestler. It could be an NXT person. A comparison I will before I let you get your point is I do want to say that I don't know if you remember or no, you know who Christopher Daniels is, the Fallen
Yeah.
Angel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew because I didn't know this till recently, but the wrestler Suicide in TNA,
Mm-hmm.
that was Christopher Daniels.
Oh, really?
I did not
Okay.
know that.
I didn't either.
So it could be something like that too. And that's where it gets so good, is because it's making you ask these questions and really get into that type of watching this, that side of watching the show rather than just at the surface level. That's what I love
Yeah.
about it.
I feel like because you mentioned the Undertaker, I feel like it could be kind of cool if they made Uncle Howdy someone that you never know who he really is, but kind of have him as a pairing with Bray Wyatt, kind of the same way that we saw Paul Bearer and The Undertaker. I feel like that would be kind of cool
So you're
because
going,
I
yeah,
really
cool.
still love my theory that he's not a real person, but it would be
Yeah,
cool if they kind of treat him as a real person. Um, but
yeah, okay,
because obviously we can physically see him, we can't
yeah,
pretend that LA Knight had someone jump through a table who wasn't really there.
yeah.
But
No, LA Knight just burned into flames. Like
yeah,
no,
that yeah, that didn't happen. But I feel I think that is would be a cooler way to take this whole storyline. instead of making it an obvious, oh, it's Bo Dallas, and that's mostly because people just want a brother and a brother to work together. That's basically
Yeah.
the only reason why people want it to be Bo Dallas. There's no other reason. There's literally nothing.
No one's like a
Um,
Bo Lever still, except for me, and even that is few and far between.
yeah,
Uh,
I just don't. I'm not. I mean, it would be cool for a second, but I feel like that's it. I just think it would be kind of cool, like you said, if we never knew who Uncle Howdy was, and it just was like a big part of his storyline, but we kind of never figured it out. He was
yeah.
just more of the ominous figure, as you said, like just
Mhm.
one part of why Bray Wyatt is that darker type of character. I think that would be a lot more intriguing, at least for me. I
Oh,
don't
I
know if
agree.
everybody else would, but
No, yeah, I'm with you.
so moving on to the women's elimination chamber qualifying match. So that was Natalia versus Shayna Baszler versus Shotzi versus Zelina Vega.
Zelina
Um,
Vega. Like,
so we know
ow!
Natalia won.
Yeah,
Natalia
I
wins.
get why they did it.
I was gonna ask you, do you think she was the right choice? Because she's been gone. Her return was at the Royal Rumble. She had a broken nose. She made her return at the Royal Rumble, and this is her first match back. It's kind of
Yes.
like what I said last week about Carmella maybe being put into a qualifying match too early because she's been gone for several months. But do you think Natalia was the best choice out of these four?
My heart is telling me no, and it should have been Zelina, but my brain is giving me the go that it's good, that it was a good choice because Natalia is very talented in the ring, obviously being a Hart
Obviously.
family,
Yeah.
but the Montreal factor too, having
Oh,
her be
that's
in the
right.
match, makes sense. And also, I don't. If you put Selena Vega in, I know you obviously my bias aside, you have to put her in some sort of matches or any sort of match to give Legado Fantasma some sort of relevancy and keep them in the
Mm-hmm.
picture. But for this, I'd rather see Natalia get in the chamber, and if she wins, then we have another discussion on our hands. But if she puts in a good match and makes it entertaining by putting over somebody or a nice spot, then I'm okay with it and don't really care. And I'm happy that she gets to have that moment in Montreal in the Elimination Chamber. But I just know I just I wasn't the other three. I just don't care. So Natalia, if someone had like, oh, pick the winner, I'd be like, yeah, Natalia makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think given the stakes at hand that whoever wins the elimination chamber match faces Bianca at WrestleMania, it makes the most sense for it to be Natalia. But is she a babyface right now? She
Yes,
wasn't before she left.
yeah,
But
she'll come back as a face, and then she might have a heel turn, and then she'll go back to heel. But as for now, I'm pretty sure she's a face.
so I agree. I do think that she was the best out of the group. I think that Zelina, I would have been fine with that, but she's not really been competing in the women's division. She's been more so, being that manager, that valet type for Legado del Fantasma. So it
Yes,
kind of makes sense that she wasn't the one. But out of the participants that we know of right now, which is Natalia, Nikki Cross, Liv Morgan, Asuka, and Raquel Rodriguez, looking at that, Asuka has to win, right? Can you imagine this version of Asuka versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania? Like, I can't help but like smile already. Like, I need
it
that
is gonna
so
be good.
bad. That would be
Yeah,
so
that's
good.
she is the best. She is the best wrestler, women's wrestler in the
Ugh.
company right now. It's not even close. It's the Japan
I
style, the New Japan style. It's better. They just do it right, and
yeah.
to have that finally transfer over into WWE, and you're gonna put the championship on her, and legit like it just for Triple H for Papa Paul to do this would be so good, so
And for
good,
some reason
so
I'm just now
good.
realizing this, but they're doing these matches with SmackDown superstars as well.
Oh yeah, Liv Morgan.
So, well, in Italia.
I don't
So
know.
interesting that they are doing that because we were talking about that with Rhea and Charlotte because they are on separate brands. So I'm wondering if that's, I wonder if we're going to see more of that. Are we going to see more crossovers where we're not going to have one specifically on Raw, one on SmackDown? I assume what we will, since they are the Raw Women's Champion and SmackDown.
Yeah.
But no, I really want Asuka to win. I feel like that would be a really good second match for the women's title at Mania, paired with Rhea and Charlotte. I feel like those are two amazing women's title matches for Mania. And then also throw in, if we possibly, Bailey and Becky. Oh my gosh.
Steel Cage on Monday. Steel Cage match Monday.
Yes, and we know that the rumor right now for the women's tag titles is rumored to be Damage Control versus Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey.
I was gonna mention this to you.
So this is what I find interesting, right? So right now, Damage Control with Bailey is feuding with Becky. So I'm wondering, how is that going to start? And also, does that mean that Ronda and Shayna are going to all of a sudden be baby faces? Like, they are very much heels right now, and so are Damage Control. So how is that going to work? Like, are they going to come in and try to save Becky? Like, that makes no sense.
I don't get it.
I mean, obviously it's not set in stone. It's just a rumor right now. But I feel like that's a match that Damage Control would be the one favored by the fans.
Yeah, I would be.
And that's how it should be.
Oh, it's absolutely how it should be. Ronda Rousey cannot be a babyface in this company.
No, not anymore. She sealed her fate with all the talking she does.
Oh my God, I just want to shut. Like, she just shut up. Just shut up. I can't.
It's just because she's not used to having to do that, or walking the line between, you know, the storyline of wrestling and real life. She's so used to just saying whatever she wants to say, because the UFC, there was no,
shoot from the hip.
You know, there was no pretending there. But you would think after being around for a few years that she would have figured it out by now, but it is what it is.
People are slow learners.
So we mentioned it at the beginning, but there was a whole lot happening between the Bloodline and Sami Zayn on SmackDown. That's why I wanted to just put it all together at the end, because again, it's the dominating storyline on SmackDown every single week. So from beginning to end, there's a lot going on. So at the beginning of the show, we see the Bloodline show up, but they showed up without Jay, noticeably absent. And that becomes the main feature of the story for the show. Roman asks Jimmy if he has spoken to him. Jimmy says that he hasn't. Roman gets big old mad and says, "Don't you find it disrespectful? You know, you have a title match next week, blah, blah, blah." And Jimmy's just like Jimmy doesn't really care, which I thought was kind of interesting because of his reaction to Jay walking away at the Rumble. He was very mad about it. And so it was kind of an interesting shift there, where he was just seemingly unbothered.
It's like grieving. It's like staged grieving. Oh, we have a comment. Let's go.
But yeah, so we see that Roman tells Solo and Jimmy to go find him, which they don't, because apparently Jay turned off his phone. And that's what makes Roman get mad and like tells them like, "Oh, go fire up the jet and like get me a steak dinner." So they go off and do
incredible.
That.
It's so
and
incredible.
Then I love those like subtle like bragging moments, you know, where it's like, yeah, I'm the champion and like I have a lot of money and I have a private jet and whatever. Like it's used it very well, I think, because other times, you know, when a champion or someone becomes a champion, that's all they do is like they flaunt their money or you know, fake money, whatever. Anyway, so that continued at the end of the show when Roman came out with only Paul Heyman. He said that Cody deserved his attention, but, you know, that's not the case right now. So he's talking about how he saw everything that he needed to see when he looked at Sami. And the main thing was that he saw greed and that he gave Sami a chance, but he just used the Bloodline and the Island of Relevancy. I love that. Like, it's kind of corny, but it like makes sense.
Oh,
you know?
It hits.
And then Sami attacked Roman from behind, and he reveals his new shirt, which I think is awesome. The Sami Uso shirt. now says Sami Zayn, and the Zayn part looks like a piece of duct tape. They did that very well because it
Very
really
well.
does look like a piece of duct tape.
Yeah.
They kind of go back and forth. Roman ends up beating up Sami. He gets a chair, but Sami hits him with a spear, and then Sami was going to hit him with the chair, but he grabs the mic and he says, "I've never wanted anything from you, but now I do, and I'm coming after you in that undisputed Universal WWE Championship." And then Solo and Jimmy come out and they attack Sami. They beat him. They use the chair. There's a bunch of "We Want Jay" chants, which I was like, oh my God, this is the most over that Jay Uso has ever been.
Yeah. Are we really chanting for Jey Uso right now?
I know. Like, we love it though. Very much a callback to the Thunderdome era.
Very much
And
so.
yeah, and then Roman yells at Sami for breaking up the bloodline, and he accepts his challenge for Elimination Chamber in Montreal and says he can't wait to beat him down in front of his family and friends. So I don't know what to say other than whoever is working on this story and coming up with how it should proceed deserve every round of applause by every single person that pays attention to wrestling, because and I said this before when we talked about the end of Rumble. It's not even just about that the people who are writing it. It's also about the bloodline and Sami acting it and acting it so well, doing it so believably. And this could very easily become something that is like corny and just overdone, but it's not, and people are eating it up every single week. It's insane.
It is insane. I just don't it to me, the bloodline is the most over story in all of wrestling right now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you have fans chanting for fucking Jey Uso right now. And yes, it may be because they really want Jey Uso, but they want Jey Uso to come out to build this story. That is it. And that's what's just so fascinating to it, because now it adds that other layer to it. There's so many layers of the story, and the fact that you're gonna have Jay now walk out because of that element where he was skeptical of Sami, and then accepts him, and then he turns, and now he's conflicted. Whereas for Roman, Jimmy, and Solo, they don't care. Like, of course they're gonna ride. It's family. But now you
Yeah.
have Jay like in an internal conflict. Like, it's all done so well for a major payoff, and that's what I
Mm-hmm.
love. And the fact that Sami Zayn is getting a main event match at a
Yeah.
pay-per-view because of this. I don't care that he's gonna lose. And I saw good buddy John Alba tweet about this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna call him out for this, not to be a dick or anything, but he does, but it's my good friend John Alba says that he's not a fan of non-title matches. He thinks it's ridiculous.
Of
Where
non-title matches?
it's not like non-title matches, but he tweets the other night that he's not a fan of Sammy Roman because of the title and because of the obvious reasons of Cody winning the Rumble and whatnot. Would rather have it be a non-title match.
See, I predicted that. I said the other night
I
that I wouldn't have been surprised if that's what it was. But this plays with a theory that I saw on Twitter, but I can't find it again. Maybe I kind of created it myself a little bit. I don't know. So I was trying to think of how are they going to split the titles, because I would not be surprised if that is something that happens before Mania, or Roman defends on both nights, which I think we kind of talked about that a little bit, where he defends on one on night one and the second on night two. So one thing that I thought would be interesting is during Elimination Chamber, if someone in the bloodline gets involved, and that is what leads to Roman winning, right? Because Adam Pearce is the backstage manager type of guy, what if he takes issue with that? And then his punishment is either, okay, now you're going to have to defend your title at WrestleMania each night, or you're going to have to defend it again against Sami, but you're going to have to, either it's not double championships, it's one year. And then it's like, what if Sami becomes like one champion? I don't know. It's so difficult to try and think of something of what they're going to do, because then there's a lot of people also thinking that Cody's not going to win at Mania, and I don't buy that at all. I think it's going to be
No.
the most obvious result ever.
Fucking shot he's not. If you
There's
think
no
for a
way.
second that Roman Reigns is going to win at Mania against Cody Rhodes,
No,
then
I
you
know.
clearly do not understand that there's a documentary already in progress
I
being made
know.
right now.
Well, and they're still showing his vignettes. They showed it on SmackDown. Like, we've been
I know
seeing him for
they
weeks. Like, he's already returned. He already won the Royal Rumble, and they're still showing them. And it's possible it's a Triple H era, so we don't know. But I just find it hard to believe that they are showing all of these videos detailing his surgery, talking about his family and how much it means to, for the Rhodes to be at Mania, and then they're just going to have him lose. I just don't. I think that we're gonna maybe see some sort of twist between now and Mania. Maybe it will be that Roman has just the one title. I don't know. Maybe what if it became a triple threat? I don't know. But someone said, what if it was a triple threat including Sammy? Which I feel like I would be on board for Cody to win, because I told you I didn't love that they had him win the Rumble, and then there's not a whole lot of storyline like making him earn, his way up there. I feel like if he could beat Roman and Sammy,
What if he
that
pins
would be
Sammy?
historic.
What if he pins Sammy?
No,
And
he would have to pin Roman. He
no,
would
no, no.
have to pin Roman.
No, hear me out. So you would have him pin Sammy,
Yeah.
and then Roman takes one of the belts back. He's like, no, I'm the unit. You didn't pin me for my, like, some bullshit like that. Whatever. And then you have, I don't know, you can do something with that. I'm maybe just overthinking it, but
No,
like,
I think that there's just so many possibilities, and I think it's because we've been wanting them to split the titles for so long that it's like I can't stop thinking about the different ways that it could happen at Mania or before Mania or something. And we know that uh if they're going to split it, then Roman would keep the Universal Championship because that would continue his streak. But
mhm.
then I'm not on board for Cody to win the Universal title. He needs to win the WWE title.
Yeah, I know he
So,
needs to win the
but
WWE.
that would also be interesting too, because then he would maybe have more of his choice, if they split the titles, but then they're not going to have Cody versus a babyface at Mania. Like, that's not happening. So it
No,
feels like the inevitable result is going to be Roman's double champion
yeah,
at, but they have to split the titles at some point.
they have
Like,
to.
they
You have
have
to split
to.
it up. I just don't know how you do it.
I
Like,
know. It just feels like
where?
they're too deep in all of these storylines right now that there's no way that makes sense for anybody,
No, yeah, they need more
unless they
like
introduced
24/11.
another one. But why would they have 3 world
You're gonna
titles?
you're gonna introduce another world title.
The world heavyweight is back, guys.
The galactic champion.
Yeah.
Like, oh my
I
god,
don't
I
know,
don't
but
know.
I just don't know, and I would hate to see Cody be the one that has to split them, you know? And I think
Yeah,
that's part of it too. Like, if anyone deserves to split them, it makes the most sense for it to be Roman, but I don't want Cody to win the Universal title because it doesn't hold the same weight as the WWE title.
no, it doesn't. It just doesn't.
So there's a whole lot of possibilities. We have plenty of time to talk about it, plenty of time to
Plenty of
speculate, but
time. We got a
um
lot of time before the Rumble. I mean, the Mania.
yes, and that was SmackDown.
That was SmackDown. Sarah, what do you think of this show? What will we rate it? 1 out of 10.
I would say like a 7. And the reason being no LA Knight, Imperium losing,
Yeah.
and
Sad, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Sad,
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 I'm a
yeah.
sad girl.
Sad, yeah.
I'm emo. Cut my wrist and blow. That's how I feel.
Cut my life in 2 pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it
yeah, I
was
think it was like
alright.
a 6, 7, and not because it was like horrible, but I just felt, there were some disappointing aspects of it that kind of just overshadowed anything, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I will end the show with this comment from our good friend David. He says, "Bring back the winged eagle belt." And
Yeah, we
Sarah, I
talked
wouldn't
about that a little bit.
we did, and this is
Sorry.
what I would like to propose here is that I feel like Cody Rhodes winning and he has two titles. It's not traditional, you know. That's not the
Mhm.
Rhodes family. They're very traditional. Um, I really think that he's going to not split the titles, but what if he combines them and then
I
he
know, but
makes
I hate
the
that.
the undisputed what? No, but then he makes one belt.
I know, but then like that again limits the amount of people who can compete for it. So that's what I mean. Like that would be the only time where I would be fine. They bring back the winged eagle, and maybe that's what they say. It's like the undisputed, WWE Universal Championship, whatever. Then they could bring back like a world heavyweight or something, because then it would. I just feel like they need two titles, um,
You need two titles
because
at this point.
yeah,
I agree.
I don't like having it limited to one, because again, like I said, it lessens the amount of guys that can compete, and they're not doing it with the women. So,
No.
we might see at some point that um there's not going to be brand specific titles or whatever. It might end up just being like, oh, this is a women's championship, this is a women's whatever, which I don't know how they would do that. But yeah, no, I hope that they don't
Jamil
do
agrees.
that. I think it would
Jamil
just
agrees.
be
Let's go,
it would just
Jamil.
be nice if they did bring back the winged eagle. I feel like that would be kind of cool, especially because of the storyline of, that's the one that Dusty won and then it was taken away from him,
Oh, that'd
and
be
Cody's
so
done it before, so it wouldn't just be, oh, Roman won and then decided, oh, to hell with this, I'm bringing back the winged eagle. Like it
yeah.
wouldn't make sense. It would be random, but
Oh,
I
that'd be
feel
so
like that would be
cool.
super iconic, and I feel like that would be a really emotional moment, like the unveiling of it, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. I just watched Braun Breaker destroy Grayson Waller, so that was cool.
Oh yeah.
That is the cage match.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about these two.
I am obsessed with Grayson Waller.
I
Obsessed.
I can't tell. He's always in character.
That's
Always.
I love it. It's a
Very old
Walmart
school.
MJF.
Yeah, and so it's like I love that, but I don't know. I don't know. I think also I'm not 100% in love with like his whole gimmick, which I mean, it's very 2023, obviously, because it's like we're on Instagram live and like whatever.
Like fucking
But
today.
no, he's definitely grown on me, and
He
it's
was
so
absolutely.
weird to hear an Australian wrestler,
It is.
because
I
we
don't think
don't
I've
hear
seen
a
it.
lot of them talk. I mean, Rhea is Australian, but
Oh, she is.
um yeah.
I thought she was New Zealander. That
No, I'm
okay.
pretty sure she's from
Tony Storm's
Australia.
Australian. They're talking a little bit, not a lot in WWE, but
I'm going to double
and
check.
done
I'm like I'm
under.
almost, yeah, she's an Australian professional wrestler.
Oh my gosh! Okay, cool.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's just I guess I should say a male. We haven't really heard a lot of that, but so I think that's kind of cool. It makes him stand out a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. I like it a
Definitely
lot.
looks Australian.
Could
He's
see him on
always tan,
SmackDown
looks like
soon.
a surfer guy.
Could see him on SmackDown soon. Who knows?
Maybe. There's so many guys that are going to be brought up to the main
The
roster
Monday
at some
after
point.
Mania. The week after Mania is going to be a
There's a
mania.
lot of women too, but like I feel Raw being 3 hours is almost like not long enough. Like you almost have to make SmackDown 3 hours, because how are you going to feature all of these guys?
Yeah,
You
I
know,
don't
how are you
know.
going to have a Braun Breaker, Grayson Waller, Pretty Deadly, all of these people?
You
Like
have
that's just 3, but I'm just saying like there's so
6
many.
hours of programming. No, that's going to be 8 hours of programming a week.
I would love that though.
Oh, I would absolutely love it, but I'm thinking like, wow, look how
Put
far.
on a show on Wednesday to compete with AEW.
Ooh, a little Wednesday Night War.
Wednesday night.
WN, that's a mouthful. I'm not even gonna try to say that
I have
right.
a show.
That's exactly what I
Yeah,
said.
that's what you
Thank
said.
you.
I know
Thank
it's
you.
not going to happen, but I still think it'll be
Never say
interesting, because
never.
I think that they're a little bit overloaded, possibly.
They are a little bit.
But anyway, before we continue ranting on too long,
Yeah, no, thank it. We are just ranting here because this NXT pay per view is going down. They're smacking it down. All right, I'm done with the puns. Thank you
Stop.
guys for tuning into this a special edition of Pits and Sarah's Wrestling Show, the SmackDown Breakdown. Make sure you're following us on all social media platforms at Pat_Pits for me, and for Sarah at SMarshXO on Instagram, Pitsy35. Sarah, have you seen my Instagram stories of my view of the morning?
No.
Oh my God, they're gorgeous. I have a sunrise every morning at my
Oh
work.
yeah, because you're an
Uh,
early bird.
I am an early bird. I have to get up at 4:50 every morning, and then we go to work at 6, and I get to see the sunrise while I unload a freezer full of fish. So, if you want to see nice views of Boston, the greatest city on earth, follow me on Instagram at Pitsy35 and Sarah at _.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, I'm getting it right. That's what a champ does. He improves. Also, we have a podcast as well. We don't just do these live shows, but let me talk about the live shows first. All right, on Monday or Tuesday, we got the Raw recap or Raw rewind going down here on Sarah's YouTube channel. Go check that out. Sarah Marsh XO, right?
On what?
YouTube, Sarah Marshall XO.
Yes, full
Sarah
name.
Marshall XO on YouTube. That's where you're gonna find every thing we do. Not only just the replay of the live stream, but we cut clips as well. So in case you do not have just an hour and 1 minute and 34 seconds to just spend sitting here listening to us, but you want to hear what we have to say, we have that clip for you. So go check that out at Sarah's YouTube channel. And then what else? Oh, the podcast. That's right. That's where I was gonna go. Podcast. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on everywhere you get your platform, podcast platform. Pits and Sarah's Wrestling Podcast. Go check that out. We didn't record last week, busy schedules as always, but that's why we have these shows so we can always come back. And I don't know what we're doing this week. I have a couple ideas. Sarah, you I know have a couple ideas as well. But tune into that and subscribe and listen to those old episodes in the archives. And that's all I got. Sarah, what do you got? Final thoughts?
I got nothing.
So let's watch Grayson Waller win the NXT championship. God bless. Thank you for listening. Remember that you could do it. All I got to do is try. We'll see you next time.